get being mavar the shit of the Ramak that and he wants to explain why the musik of Ein Sof is dafka al atzmos. Some Kabbalah Marishenim learned that Keser is Ein Sof. So we have to see what they hold. But here he starts being mavar that according to the Ramak, Ein Sof is going on atzmos. So the first Tash says Ein Sof has blik vol. Pasha Tash musik of blik vol, that is something is a davar mugbol. So it has a certain tchum where he's mispashet. You have the mashal even in the Avraham Kipshut, you have Zman, you have Makim, certain thing. We're not dealing with what type of thing the thing is. In the musik of bli, something that's mugbal or not mugbal is how far or how long is this the existence of this kiyum. Avada, the fact that something's blik vol is because his mitzias is not. That's what we spoke about last time. The nesia inyan of the fact that he's mispashet at Ein Sof is because in litchila. But there's one musik of Ein Sof that is blik vol. There's no hagbali. He's mispashet b'kol makim. He's nimtza b'kol makim. The musik of makim is not shaykh l'gav Ein Sof. That's the first dash. Ein Sof. The idea that something exists in a certain area, in a certain makim, that's called he has a sof. It's shaykh to say that there's a certain sedab whose mitzias is, and there is where his mitzias finishes. Shaken Ein Sof this pashtusi means that there is no end. Ein Sof, there's no end to his mitzias. But mainly but he's higher than the musik of makim. That's one type of blik vol. First, the musik of blik vol. You can't be magbal that is shaykh to a certain chum. That's the first zach, and that he says only shaykh and atzmos, because anything which yesh lit kosh, yesh lit tchila, yesh lit tichla, means anything that his mitzias inside atzmos is not mechuyev to be. So be'etzem darfner zayin. Yesh lit tchila means that be'etzem his mitzias is dependent on something. Means be'etzem he doesn't exist. If be'etzem he doesn't exist, al karchach he has a sof. That means the be'etzem without a siba, without a some matzah which is mechayiv his mitzias exists nicht. So yesh lit tchila, yesh lit tichla. And the Mela also, his Metzias is going to have a tchum where it's going to be. Because his Metzias only exists in the area or in the Dartin Busadad, the Tunaim, which are Mechayiv his Metzias. But outside of this, the idea, a Regesh doesn't have to make sense, let's say. Why doesn't the Regesh have to make sense? Because Seichel, in the Klal, there's Klal Seichel. The Klal Seichel exists in Seichel, Mashiach Ba'elam HaRegesh, there's other Klalim. So why doesn't the Indian of Seichel, why doesn't it affect Midas? Because the whole Metzias of Seichel is only legitimate. There's only mechuyev when there's the Gdarim of Seichel. Outside of the Gdarim of Seichel, the Shtaz Azam is certain b'chlal. So in Kol Mishesh D'Tchila means anything that is mitzias is totally, is dependent, is neveh mitzad a certain inyan, mitzad a certain siba. So you only exist according to the siba which is mechayiv. He's not Ein Sof. He's not b'chol makim. So you're saying to get to the Ramak, Musagim l'mayla. So the hechste Musagim was kennen zayin. Nothing's mechuyev to be. The musig of blik vol doesn't either have to be. The musik of Gilei Lukus doesn't either have to be. Gilei doesn't have to be. Nothing has to be. So the musik of the gewisse Sivit is the musik of Gilei. Let's say. So is that going to be everywhere? Mechadesh is going to be everywhere. Darten with the Eivish start is Pashav, Darten with the Zayin. It's not going to be. It's not going to be Kol Malkum. It's not going to be Ein Sof. But I mentioned this last time. This is negate to remember this. When there's a difference between the Pile, we say that Rabbi Menan Nimtzaim you nitzchim b'ratz naver. We find the tchun of Ein Sof, a blik vol, we find in Avraham also. The Shemesh, the Poel, has a tchun of Ein Sof. There's no Akbal in the Shemesh. The Kiyum of the Shemesh, in the Zman, HaKiyum of the Shemesh, it's a Kiyum of Ein Sof. There's no Chalishas in the Kiyum of the Kiyum of the Tzva Shemayim. Or in the Kiyum B'min of Tzva Aretz, there's no Chalishas at all. There's no Akbal. But there's a difference between when we say that Eir is Ein Sof, according to the Alter Rebbe, that Eir is Ein Sof, or we say that Shemesh is Ein Sof. The Tzva Shemayim have a Nekudah of blik vol. When the Nitzad Shav in both is, there's some Mitzad Atzmai. The Shemesh V'Rech Mitzad Atzmai are Gvul. Al there's a Eir. The Indian of Gilei Mitzad Atzmai, Gilei Lekos, this idea of Gilei Lekos Mitzad Atzmai says the Musik of Gilei independently. Mitzad Atzmai is not Ein Sof. So that doesn't have to be all together. So the Musik of Gilei Lekos, like every other Musik, doesn't have to exist. So it's Mugbal. That's the Musik Mitzad Atzmai. But the MSC is Shemesh V'Rech. Why is it Ein Sof? The Shemesh is not Ein Sof. The Shemesh is Mugbal. The Eivish there is cancels the chalishus of the shemesh or how but the fact that shemesh Ein Sof doesn't relate to the shemesh. It's not that now that the Eivish wants the shemesh the shemesh is a type of being which is Ein Sof. Even now, say the Medugma Chassidus, you throw a stone, the stone is flying, but the fact that the stone is flying doesn't relate to the stone. A stone doesn't fly. You're pushing it. It's the kayach hayad that's in the ear, but the tchuna of flying doesn't relate to the stone. The stone doesn't fly. As Al said, the tchuna of Ein Sof even now doesn't relate to the shemesh. The pale it's Ein Sof. Mash'eke, when we say that the earth is Ein Sof, that's what I was going to say that the earth is bli gvul. That means that in of Gilei Lukus, earth which is the Gilei Amar, Gilei Lukus, is Ein Sof. Ein Sof, this pashtus say, there's no hagbala, there is no musik of gvul, there's no musik of makim, there's no musik of hagbala. The earth of Ein Sof, the Gilei of Ein Sof. So the Stam mitzad atzmai. It means the musik of Gilei mitzad atzmai is not Ein Sof. But lepayil, it's mitzad me'ein amar. So according to the word is not that the Indian of Ein Sof is misyachish to the air. The air is taka Ein Sof. What's for azach is air? Gilei is a zamen sartzach, which is Ein Sof. Why is air Ein Sof? Not because air, there is no mitzvah of air mitzad atzmai. Because the whole musik of air is that it's this galas amar. We'll see that. But I'm saying the maskana, he can just this word has to be. He relates them. They're different. Mitzad atzmai both mitzad atzmai Gilei is exactly like the shemesh. The shemesh is mukbul, the musik of Gilei is mukbul. That's mitzad atzmai. But now, what is the eir? The eir is taken not a separate mitzvah. The eir is the spashus of the mar. Since the eir is the spashus of the mar, therefore the eir is Ein Sof because it's really the mak. It's the essence itself. We'll see later the pratim. So but Adam Lekter too, he says a lashon in the Maimer that does gufa that the gather of eir is me'ein amar. That gufa is b'rtzein yizbar. That's already another word. You heard the meaning. This he says at the end. At this point, we'll see the. He says, "Mashinim so v'netzel miti yizbarach en shaychim mechnes yisrael be'etzem." But there ain't so b'rtzein levat. K'mish kosev v'ramesh mitzchim ratzon abeir levat. So the rameret v'egin pashet nefroim. But then he says, "U'kumoi be'er." Shu b'chinas Ein Sof. He doesn't say b'nei shu b'rtzein yizbarach. He doesn't say like the shemesh, because the shemesh taken not Ein Sof. He wants to bring. The Rebbe Shabbos teaching the Rameh that there's nevraim which are nitzchim kaviyach. That there's inyanim which are not etzem which are nitzchim. The shemesh is not nitzchi. It's like the stone is flying. You see, there's besides for a bird flies, a stone flies. It's nicht emes. A stone doesn't fly. A mensch warf da stehen, a stone doesn't fly. Either pelam a stone is flying, but it doesn't relate to the stone. You can't say that there's another thing that's bligvol besides for another thing that flies besides for a bird. What else flies besides for a bird? A stone. It's not going to be right to say that. A stone doesn't fly. So they say that besides for the fact that Atzmos is Ein Sof, B'rtzeini also there's Nevraim that are Ein Sof. They're taken not Ein Sof. They're technically Avadir, they're Kayam without Chalishis. But the Tchun of Ein Sof doesn't relate to them. Mashekin Ba'er, the Rebbe Shvasi wants to bring the Rameh to which is Taka Ein Sof. So Ein Sof, Eir is Kumei Shu B'chinas Ein Sof, but Shaila is mitzad what is the Eir Ein Sof? Is the Eir Ein Sof because the musig of Gilei is Nitzchi? Because the musig of Gilei Lukus has to be? That's about the nish. Nothing has to be. But why is Eir Ein Sof? Because the Eir is Mein Amar. Because the Gilei of the Mar doesn't zen shpeter. This needs a beer. It means even though Eir Mein Amar, but we're saying that the Gilei is Ein Sof. The Peh we're saying that the Eir Ein Sof means that the Gilei Lukus is Ligvol. Not just Atzmos is Ein Sof. Not only that Atzmos is everywhere. The Eir of Atzmos is everywhere. The Gilei is everywhere. The musik of Gilei is Dafnish Zayin. So, but since the Indian of Gilei is the musik of Gilei is it's the his galus hamar, the mele the Eir itself is Ein Sof. Okay, we'll see the beer. We'll see later. But so Luchor has a different beer than the Nevrayim. So that guy he brings, Luchor has no dimin to the Rameh. Saying the Cheshbon the Pshat and the Maim. Luchor has no dimin to the Rameh. The Rameh that they're nitzchim b'ratzon abeir. Eir is not meant to ratzon abeir because Eir lechatchil is Gilei Amar. So it's not a word of ratzon. It's a different word. So Adam Doctor and Dagov, the fact that the Gedra Eir is Dveikus and the whole musik of Eir, that's Gufas Bertzeni. It's not the fact that the Eir is made, the fact that the Eir is made in America, because Eir is Nyanid Dveikus, that Gufas Bertzeni. But the word of the Yachas of the Ein Sof to the Eir is not the same Yachas as when you say Stam as Yitzvah Shemaim, the musik of Dveikus. Good. Now we'll see that. Avolim it's Hadatzman. Yeah. Yeah, the musik of Eir Mein Amar does am verstehen the musik of Eir Mein Amar, but mit zen später the Prate Advar. Okay, that's the Ein Taich in Ein Sof, and the Poil this musik of Ein Sof mitzad Atzmai nothing's Ein Sof besides for Atzmos. Mitzad Sheni there is in Yanim which are not Atzmos which are Ein Sof the Poil. I'm not saying Shamash Yirech are not Ein Sof. They're technically they have no chalishas, but they're not Ein Sof. They don't have the tchon. Eir there's another Inyan Kaviyach. There's Gilei. Atzmos is there's a musik of Gilei Lukus. That's a musik. Gilei Lukus. Gilei Lukus is Ein Sof this pashtus. It's Gefin Tzachum Edom. And not Stam saying Beratzna Beire Mele, but Gilei Lukus is Ein Sof. Why? Because the Gilei Tek is Mein Amar. It's not a mitzvah Eiser Atzmos. Rak upon him, even however much we say that Eir is Me'ena Meir, and therefore the Ein Sof of the Eir is not. But Rak upon him, we're saying that there's Gilel because it's Ein Sof. The pearl, that's what we're saying. We'll see the versteht the word. Saying the Cheshbon Advar. Good. I'm saying there's certain pratim which will become clear in the Hemshech, but I'm saying the Cheshbon Apshat. So the Raz Dr. Beis. A Beis is another taich, another pirush in the meaning of the word Ein Sof. Which steht in Kabbalah the Lashon Ein Sof. Was meint man with the word Ein Sof? So Beis says in Ein Sof shuhu bli gvul mamish. So he's really touching the word Ein Sof is going on was for a sort zach retman. Not the hedragbol of the thing, not that the Indian is Ein Sof in the sense that he's mispashet everywhere, that he's felt everywhere, that he's effective everywhere. What type of thing is it? So every other nivra, every other mitzias has a certain definition of what it is. Ein Sof means that it has no definition. You can't define it. And he touches this pratam what it means. That's the second thing. Ein Sof means we're dealing with every other musik, every other Indian has a certain taich. What is this Indian? Has a certain hagdara what it is. So it has a safe. A safe means not that its presence has a akbal of where it's present. We're not saying where it's present as it. That's the teitzah. Since the Indian has a taich, the mele, that's the shinacha word. The fact that something has a taich, it means that it has a. I'm saying wrong. That's a different word already. You can have something which has a taich, but it's blikvol. It's a different word. Blikvol, let's say the blikvol is itself is a certain. Let's say there's something that his Indian is blikvol. His Indian is that he has no limit of space and time. That's agdara. The agdara is that he's beyond limitation. There's a certain agdara, but that's agdara. That's the first touch of Ein Sof. That is blikvol. He has no limits, no ends. Here we're saying Ein Sof in the sense that you can't define him in anything. He's beyond the Torah. Not even the Torah of blikvol. That's the different second touch of Ein Sof. Blikvol means that he's not confined. He has no limitations. So then he's mushbal from limitations. Means there is certain things are limited beings, and they are not blikvol. That's one type of being. There's another type of being which you cannot limit him. He's beyond limitations. He's saying there's certain things which the definition of this thing is that it has a certain makim, it's mugbal to a certain space. Certain things cannot be limited to makim. Saying Ratzin, you cannot limit Ratzin, let's say, to a specific Eber. Because Ratzin is a general thing, so you cannot relate it to a specific Eber. Because he's not a specific Indian. Seichel is a specific Indian. Ratzin is the general person wants. He's nimshach to something. So you can't relate it to a specific Eber. It's general, it's not specific. That's Agdara also. He's general, it's not specific. So they have something which is blikvol. He's something which does not have, he's not a davar prati. He's not a davar mukdar. He's higher than definition. When he says over here Ein Sof, it doesn't mean that he's higher than definition. You can't say higher either. You can't say any mustig about him. Not yes and not no. There's a mitzvah Ein Sof, a different Indian. That's higher than the first Indian. The first Indian is a mustig of blikvol. So you could have things that are mukbal, you have things which don't have limits. So there could be, you have something which means that its nature is beyond definition, beyond limitations. Here, the word is not beyond limitations. The word is you cannot say anything about it. Any tchon at all. Not even in Kodah of Blikvol either.
We're saying that he's not anything, he's not a...
Right, yeah. It touches race. Blikvol mamish. Hainu she'ein leimar be'eze inyan prati. Well, we can't say about this etzem, whatever we're dealing with, saying we're going to lukus. We can't have a specific inyan. Uletare be'ezag bolashiyeh. Leimar she'ubchinas madrege kazu, ubchino madrege kazu. Any madrege, he's not saying, not because the madrege wegen was handelt sich is zu mitzumtzum. The etzem idea of relating him to a certain inyan is in sheiches. Wie heich the inyan soll sein, and wie edel the inyan soll sein. And how afshatted the Indian. If it's an Indian, it's like if it's an Indian. The Asma, the only thing that exists is him. No, via ze is there. Was for a certain Indian. That musik is not shy. I feel about this. I feel about telling you my yesim oflam vayeser nailim. For afle b'chinas blikvol or b'chinas gvul chulu. It says gvul after blikvol. Even in Teilim of Vinyan machim oflam, I can't just sagen was you say. That Timetar Atzvah is Tachlas HaBlikvol. That you can either say. Blikvol is a certain afla, it's a certain Indian. And the Gabi and the whole all Musagim are this Chodesh. Was is allein? Is nicht dem and is There's no mitzvahs outside of him. So Mitzat Sheni, you can't be mitardim in anything. And the same way he says, Ein lishlo men shum davar. If you have something that you say you cannot say about say someone that's moved off from midas. Bamechin is moved off from say you can't say that he's moved off. Leidach he says you can't say that he's, what does he say here? You can't be mitarim any ma'ile. Leidach you can't say that anything is mushlo from him. One second. You can't be mitarim. But le'idach se'ebazeh, you're being shela from everything. You're saying he's not gvol, he's not blik gvol. He says ve'em lishlam enishundav. You can't say that he's mushla from things. You say but seichel is not someone that's amechin is not affected by midas, by moods. I don't know exactly. So you can't say about him blik gvol. That means that he's mushla for the musik of blik gvol. Ever villas are blik gvol echet. He's not mekenem nish magbal zayin as there's dafke does. Le'idach, he can't say that he's not that. If he wants, he's that too. In lishlam enishum davar. You see, you can't say that he's Aleph, but you can't say that he's Mushla from Aleph. So you can't say yes, and you can't also say that he's not yes. Because he's whatever he wants. I'm saying, we're Metzayr in Inyan. So, or you're Mufshit from it. If you're Mufshit from it, then you're Mushla from it. So if someone, say, Ratzin is Blikvo, so you cannot say Makim, you can't say Akbala l'gabe Ratzin, but Meil it's Mushla from Akbala. So it doesn't contain it, it doesn't have it. Or you say that he's Mugbal and he doesn't have Blikvo. Here we're saying on one hand, you can't say on him anything, any musik. Lidach, you can't be Shayla from him any musik. Means we're not saying that the fact that we're saying that you can't say about him anything is not because he's removed. It's not a musik of more hapshad. Is that there is no musagim, only him himself. We're not looking to bring a higher Indian. It's a different type of art. You can't say about him any agdar. It's a different Indian. Variyon says hakol. Yeah, and the same time is mushlo mehakol. Nicht ja und nicht. Yeah. You can't say any yachas to him. Only him himself. This is the pshat ein sof. How does the word ein sof? Wie geht es as a word? The word of ein sof is shlilas kol atayr. We can't say kein tum tayr of him. That's ein sof. Ein sof. Every tayr has a certain sof. Has a certain hagdar. Is das nicht besonders. Am sagt der tayr of him, sagt er das nicht besonders. Like ein sof means shlilas kol atayr. Meaning shel any tayr, any inyan. Means shlilas hagvol. And also shlilas hablikvol. He's not blikvol either. But leidach, but you say shlilas hablikvol means that he's gvol, or shlilas hagvol. He says leidach is not mushla from anything. He says shlilas achiyuv. He's mushla from saying that he's shayches to things, but he's also mushla from saying that he's mushla from things. Merely yesh ba'achal. There's only him. Yeah, that's that is mushlo from. You can't say about him that is removed from things. Let's say you say chacham gadol, or what's the Alter Rebbe's dugma in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe says that someone's going to say about you say leis machshavet fisebe. Seichel can't understand. She's saying that the Eibusher's seichel is a limited thing. The Eibusher's blikvol, so he's far beyond seichel. You're saying he's mushlo from seichel. Seichel is limited, and he's far beyond limitation. So you're putting him in a certain box. You're saying which box? The box of blikvol. That box can he's mushla from saying that he's removed from things. Does that mean that he's not removed? That means that he's shaykh. Means what does it mean? Regularly something that's shaykh. How do we? What type of inyanim are we aware of? You have things that are removed from other things. You have a chacham gadol that is removed. He's mufshit, or you say he's mushla from saying shlila. You can't say about asmos that he's removed from everything. So what does that mean? That he's not removed. That means that he relates to everything. He's shlila sachiyuv. You can't say that he relates to things. So what? So he's not removed and he's not connected. So what is that? There's only him. There's no whatever he wants. The musik of ideas doesn't exist yet. There's no ideas. There's no inyanim. There's no te'erim. There's no matzavim yet. The way he wants. By us, I'm saying by us. I'm saying we kind of understand as I'm or you're this, or you're this, or you're not this. So if you're not this, it means you're mushla from it. And if you're not mushla, it means that you are that. So you are, you're not. So this is the lashon that he's saying. He's shlila sachiyuv. He's mushla from saying that he's mushla. It starts with shlila sachiyuv or shlila sachiyuv. Shlila sachiyuv. He's mushla from saying that he's shaykh to things. Like I said, Legabi Seichel Asvar is a Metzias. The Eibusher is mushla from saying that anything is a Metzias Legabi him. Everything has that he's mushla from that because he's beyond. Because what does that mean? Because he's beyond everything. It means Legabi everything is nothing. But he's also mushla from saying Shlila. He's mushla from saying that everything is nothing Legabi. So what is he? Is he mushla from things or he's not mushla from things? What is he? There's no inyan. There's only him. Vierville. Versteh the meaning. It says in different ways, but that's not what he's saying.
Let's say any mugder.
But any mugder, he wants to touch us what's meant. Any mugder could sometimes mean beyond definition. So maybe he's mushla from definition. He's saying he's shlila sa shlila. If he wants his gvul. What do you mean if he wants his gvul? It's another Indian. It's not a zam insert shlila that's mushla from anything. It's a different type of shlila skolater. Different type of Indian. Huh? That's why he touches shlilas kol haTorah. That's what he says. Not meretish ta inyan. He says shlilas kol. We don't mean an inyan of einseif. We don't mean an inyan of blikvul. An inyan of not being mugdar. We mean shlilas kol haTorah. Verges wegen alts. Was sie voran? Allein. No muss sagen. That's einseif. See, that's the mitzvah attached of not being mugdar. That's the. Yeah, he says the kol zeh, this type of inyan of shlilas kol haTorah is so derech like the Ramak. We explain the Ramak. The Ramak sagt doch, and this prat there's a machlekes in the Mekubalim and the Ramak. The erste prat there's a machlekes. The musik of bligvol according to the Mekubalim kesem sadatz mezein. That we'll see later. But here he's saying that this inyan is the kulam. So this inyan of shlilas kol haTorah. That this in is only shaykh and atzmos, and every other nivra muzhab mitzad the gather of a gather from mitzias mechodesh has a specific in what it is. It's like this. The cause in shaykh b'chinas atzmos mamish shemitziusim me'atzmose. Shua nimtza amiti shenim b'chinas mitzias nimtza. Saying every other mitzias be'etzem is nishtal. So the fact that it exists, his mitzias b'ashtet in them that he has a specific inyan that he represents. He's here mitzad the siba. Mitzad what is his mitzias here? Because there's a certain function that's mechayiv his mitzias. His mitzias is that in reality something exists. So what type of thing is it? What's for inyan hadar? The Eibusher's mitzias is not the fact that the Eibusher exists is not because there's something something that's matzdik his mitzias. If the fact that something exists is because there's a certain ilav siba, which is mastik your mitzias, you're here because so then you have a certain inyan. I'm saying is if you say the mashal svara. So why does the svara mishchal avarai exist? Because it makes sense. So first there's a musig of making sense, and this davar prati makes sense. But mainly he's nimtza, he has space to exist in the elam haseichel. So, but if he doesn't make sense. Since it's mitzias, it's not that he ermitzat atzmi is faran. That means his mahus is here. He's here because epesat matzdig event. Because he fits in somewhere. So he has to have a certain agdara, a certain type of mitzias. What type of thing is he? Mashiach atzmos does his mitzias doesn't begin because he suits with a certain klolim. Because he suits with a certain back. It's dometzadzich. It's just atzmos. So mainly it's built to mitzias nimtza. The whole musik of mitzias is not shaykh legabi. He's not here because there's a musik of mitzias and he fits into the musik of mitzias. The musik of mitzias begins from him. He doesn't have to fit into any musik of mitzias. I heard the meaning. I'm just trying to type the words that he's saying. It's called the fact that he exists, sein mitzias, his being, from sein eigener emes, from sein eigener atzmos. He's the nimtza amiti. It's not the gather of mitzias. Mitzias nimtza means that it's a being there's a musig of being, and this thing exists because it suits to the musig of being. It's found a musig from existence, and existence has a certain taich, and the reason why this thing exists is because it suits that taich. There's a world of Elam HaSeichel. Why does this svara exist? Because it suits. Mitzad the Gdorim of Elam HaSeichel, as that svara is galten. So there's a musig of mitzias nimtza. There's klolim kaviyachol, or there's already a musig of mitzias. There's an idea called mitzias, and what does it mean that something exists? That he suits that musig. He contains those tchunas of mitzias. That's only shaykh to say about something that is mitzias stammt schon sein muhus. His mitzias, the fact his being is a result of that he contains within himself the qualities of being. So if the fact that you exist, your being is because you contain the qualities of being, so you have to suit to the musig of being. But Atzmas exists, his being is misad his own muhus itself. So he's built in mitzias nimsa. He doesn't have to suit to the musig of being. So shunim tzalei v'chines mitzias. Bezet davka shaychlim ramitis in insof kanal. So he hasn't that God, the fees there. Shaila, yes, in the beginning, the man that's Shaila B'chlal Chassidus, but he brings it right from the beginning. The Shaila in Kabbalah, Ruthman on Elokus B'Shem Ein Sof, L'chora B'Shem Ein L'Tchila. So according, if you type to the Musig of Ein Sof is bleak vol, Ein Sof L'Ispashtusay, so it's a good Shaila. Why are you calling him Ein Sof L'Ispashtusay? You call him on the word which brings out the Yisad of Ein Sof. Kol Misha Ein L'Tchila, Ein L'Tichla. Mashiach Kol Misha Yesh L'Tchila could have a Sof. So why don't you read them the misad? But now you're saying, but once we teach now there's an insof at nacha teich. The teich of insof means shilas kol ateirim. So b'zay yom tikam ashkas mgamar shen shayach lerim beinsof levishein l'tayir b'ay shen l'tayir. The adra b'shem insof u'in shilas kol ateirim legamri. Sorry, is b'yom ashkas mgamar shen shayach lerim beinsof levishein l'tayir. You can't verentfer that the reason why insof is kaya le'er not alatzmos because insof is a tayir fakert the adra. The musig of Insof is Shluas Kol HaTeirim. And that's a maila why to call Atzmas Insof. Because Insof brings out Shluas Kol HaTeirim. So Insof is not a lower target. Insof is Shluas Kol HaTeirim. Okay. So now we start saying like this. Punkt is, he said when you get to the first musig of Insof, the musig of Blik Vol. So he explains how only Atzmas, how the Tchune only is Shaykh in Atzmas, and how all other Inyanim are Mushla from this. He says, but here,
I thought that you have to be mitzius emetzmus in order to have this to be real and safe.
That's what he says.
How does it ain't safe? How
the Kabbalah Marashenim? There's no Zakta doch. We're saying that only Atzmas is ain't safe. That's what we're saying. Aber b'chinas Rebbe Chama shenetzal mimenu in shayach lerim bein sav b'chinas insav b'chinas b'chino madrega amitish b'zekanal. Because it's a b'chinas shenetzal. His netzal had a certain inyan. So first he's saying there's a certain musik. That's Metzias Nimtza. There's a certain musik of Metzias. Gilui, let's say, has to be. Pshittas has to be. And that's right to exist. Pshittas is correct to exist. There's a sibba why it's netzal. There's an inyan that's matzik its kiyum. So why does it exist? Because it suits to what's correct to exist. The only thing doesn't have to suit anything. He's the one that initiated everything. That's the only aspect. Everything else, its existence has to suit a certain musig of mitzias. Versteht ihr mich? Oh, so here right away brings in the Alter Rebbe. Medem schon gelernt der Prat. We'll go to at least the Chesed Avraham da verstehen was da steht. Rak yesh mein amoir yesh bekech amoir. Here the Rebbe Nishma says that even what's air? Air is the Gili Elikus. The way Elikus comes to be Gili, the Gili Amor. So Shluas Kol Terim is only in Atzmos. Gili is a musik already. From Vanich B'Pashas, Vanich Stam der musik from Gili. There's a musik of Gili. So Gili is in Prati. Gili Elikus. But here he says that the Eir Ein Sof is not Mugdar. The Indian of Shluas Kol HaTeirim, not only Atzmos Shluas Kol HaTeirim, Punkt is, we say when you get to the musik of Blik Vol. That only Atzmos is Ein Sof. But Lepel, the Eir is Ein Sof, Gili is Ein Sof, especially why? Because Eir Mein Amoir. So he says here that Al said the Eir, the Gili Elikus, the way Elikus comes be Gili, is also built in Mugdar Legamri. The Indian of Shluas Kol HaTeirim is also Nizgal, also comes be Gili. In the Indian of Eir and the Indian of Gili, you have the Gili is also Mushla from Al-Gdar. That's a chiddush. He brings a makar from the first. He brings a makar. Yesh b'keich amar. This lashon doesn't say before. When he says the fact that the air is Ein Sof, it doesn't say that because the air has the keich of the mar. Because that's air mein amar. Unzulegen the word ish bekeich amar. This is already the etzem taich of air mein amar wouldn't explains why the air is Ein Sof, the first taich, but it doesn't explain why the air is shlos kol atayrim. This is already another taich. This I'm verstehen, but that's already a whole different meaning.
Keich amar means
Keich amar, yeah, that's already he's going to touch us later. Keich amar shen nachavart. Even though not only, what I'm saying is, that's that we see the Hemshech Advarim later, but I'm saying Parshas Advarim. What's the musig of the there's a musig of it is the gilei of the market. So from Vanet Stamtas Taka, this and it's a gilei of the market. The way the market is be'etzem is mispashit. From Vanet Stamtas Taka that there's, I'm saying not every mitzvah is mispashit. We'll see later, but the type of ispashtus of air and the type of gilei is a unique type of gilei and type of ispashtus. Only certain things are mispashit. And Medera Klal, something that has a certain tchun of head ragbal is mispashit. So the musig of air is neveya mitzad the head ragbal of atzmus. That's the bligvul of the mar. You understand what I'm saying? So air is this galus of the bligvul of the mar. So we understand that air is bligvul because air is stems and its inyan is to express the head ragbal of Elokus. We'll see later. That's inyani of air. Mashek shilas kol atayrim mitzad that has nothing to do with air. The fact that Asma Shilas Kol HaTayrim, that's not a siba for there to be a musig of Gilui. Mitzad that you can't say any Indian veganim. He's not shaykes to any Indian. The musig of air is what's the makar of air? The makar of air comes because you have a dover which is a moir. That means he's a dover mispashit. His blig vol is misbat and then there is mispashit. And who gets charez and blig vol and the fact that he's meir and air. That is. So the air is the expression of the bligvul of Elokus. So once you were going to explain air mein amar, we'll understand why the air is bligvul. But that's the bir nechsidus is because the air is the esgalus of the bligvul of the mar. Have to see. But here you're saying a different word. So the fact that the air is ein so does verstehen takaliten push the avon of the marshal of air mein amar. We'll understand it. Mashe ink in the fact that the atzmas shlos kol atayrim that has nothing to do with mitzad that he's not a mar, he's not anything shlos kol atayrim. That Indian that's not the siba, and that's nothing to do with air. We'll see later the prat. I mean, you verstehen was gesagt. The musik of air stems from the fact that Holocaust there's the Indian of Moir, and the musik of Moir means that there's the musik of bligvul hedrag bal Holocaust, and the air is the expression of the ein soflis pashtusi of the Moir. In other words, the Eibishter's ein soflis pashtusi is expressed in the fact that he's made an air, which is ein sof. Masha'inke, the fact that Shilas Kol HaTayrim, the whole idea of expression doesn't exist over there. Shilas Kol HaTayrim. There's no Mosagim there. The air which in Yoni is Gila is Inyan Prati. Shilas Kol HaTayrim is the way Elokus is Mufshitz from Mashaychas that Inyan Prati. So that has nothing to do with air. But that's a Chiddush what he's saying. I'm saying even besides that, when he say the bring the Frier, even another word, it's just another word. Any Inyan which, the musik of Ein Sof, so he brings right away from the Rameh, that Ein Sof, even though the only thing that's Ein Sof inside Atzmi is Atzmus, but the Pel, we find the musik of Ein Sof could express itself in Nivra. So it's a musik prati, it's bligvol. So the musik of bligvol, no Nivra contains it inside Atzmi, but it could be expressed L'Pel. The Shemesh L'Pel has no chlishus. Mashiach Shlilas Kol HaTayrim is not just that only someone that's Pisim Masmid has Shlilas Kol HaTayrim. A Nivra by definition is never prati. How could it be Shlilas Kol HaTayrim? It's not only a shail of no Nivra contains this tchuna within himself. This musig and a davar prati is a start to this asr. Eid is not nimtza mitzad atzim. Eid is nimtza mitzad a certain kavarim, mitzad a certain inyan. So is it a chnish to us called Eid? But davar there's again though. After you understand the beer, that was he's just saying the facts of beer. The reason why I'm saying this because he wants the far and fair. The way the Maimah works before he's mevasis why the Alter Rebbe said the musig of Eid. That's why he brings you. He wants. We have a shayla of leishanisi. When he brings the Shakatari the Ramak, right away he brings in what the Alter Rebbe says. So it's time to get to the first inyan that the Rebbe said that the Ramak said that only Atzmus is big. Alter Rebbe because that their aid is Ein Sof. Alter Rebbe is going to bring here that the Ramak said that only Atzmus is Ein Sof. Shlilas Kol HaTayrim. And Alter Rebbe said that aid is also Shlilas Kol HaTayrim. Before he's mevair what the Yisat to say that he didn't even explain what the musik of aid is according to Alter Rebbe. He just brings that this asat far and fair the shayla of leishanisi. So we don't know yet the beer of what's the pshat. What's the pshat er mein amar and why the word er mein amar explains that Mitzad Echad er is Ein Sof, but it's not Mitzad Atzmi. how it explains that. But he just wants to bring out that some part that the Ramak is correct according to Alter Rebbe. But that mitzad atzmi nothing's in stuff. But the air is in stuff. And b'meile this havos is the idea. That's the empty the shalf is. But the period tabir that's behemshech. That's behemshech. So right away he brings in to be metavich. Understand the say that Abraham the Maimer. He's bring it in order to let's see the so right away that's right away we here too. Says Rakliyesh who may namor yesh bekech amor. Oh, so he says this doesn't seem Hachodesh in Tanya. We'll see. He brings a raya from Tanya. Because because we must live chayechad sheyesh begam keach zed mitzvus matzmuse. Mitzad adveges im kere meimeker. Lefize ef sheshayach be'er gam kim chinas insaf kanal. Where's Alter Rebbe say? In other words, he brings a raya from the Alter Rebbe. The Parshas what me gesagt. The fact that may namor, that's a mashal. The Chassidus says a mashal of may namor. And that's only explains why the air is bleak vol. That's about the way there doesn't mean the Alter Rebbe. But the Alter Rebbe says in Yigar Sakedesh Simchov that an air vet Nizgala not only the fact, or not only the bleak vol of Elokus, but also the fact that Mitzusi Metzmuse. And that's also mushla from air, and that's the air stamtish from there. So if he's the F shayach be air gam get the musik of shlos kalater. The Alter Rebbe redt wegen shlos kalater. The Alter Rebbe redt wegen Mitzusi Metzmuse. In Pasha, what's Alter Rebbe saying there? The Nivra, the Poil, the fact that the Nivra Nelam has it, is Margish that the Kan Nimtze Kan Hoya. The only one that's Kan Nimtze Kan Hoya is only Atmos, and Tzusim Atzmos. Everything else is Nimshach and is Pashit from something. So we can sign is the Poil, what's for a Nivra Yibashafen geworden? A Nivra that is Hergish, that is the way he's says his natural Tfisa is that is though. It doesn't come as an extension to anything. Tzusim Atzmos. The only one Tzusim Atzmos is only Atzmos. The only real independent being is only Atzmos. So Alter Rebbe says that through air, Vert Nimshach and is Gala Dina Tzusim Atzmos. So you see from Alter Rebbe that air is not only Megala. The Indian of the Me'ein Amor is not only Me'ein the Ein Saf Velikus, which we understand that's in Yoni of air to bring out the Tchuna of Mor which the Makar has. But that only explains Musik against it. The Alter Rebbe the says that the air is also Nimshach the Mitzusim Atzmusi of Atzmus. So Lafizeh once the Mitzusim Atzmus, one of the Inyanim which are never from Mitzusim Atzmusi is Shlos Kol HaTorah. So in order to be Shlos Kol HaTorah, what's for a Zach can only Mitzusim Atzmusi can be Shlos Kol HaTorah. Because something which is Mitzvus is never Atzmusi, so then is not his built in Mitzvus Nimtza, so it can be Shlos Kol HaTorah. But the Alter Rebbe sagt nicht that in the area you also have Shlos Kol HaTorah. The Alter Rebbe says in the area you have Mitzusim Atzmusi. Once the Alter Rebbe says you have that in area is Nizgala Zalche Inyanim, which have nothing to do with the gather of air, with the musik of Gilui. So and watch what's for anybody in Nimshach and air, because it's musik. So F shayach by air gamkein, they didn't shlos kol HaTorah. What's for didn't from them? Because he wants to explain to be metavich the Schwierigkeit. But the Alter Rebbe sagt something it's not getouched in time. So he says it. For lechein is havas and Abraham and Yeshua the air b'keichin so. Means this is the main knetch that's negate to the Schwierigkeit. I mean, what's the whole shal in the beginning? We have to see this problem. The shal in the beginning is that his havas is mechayiv shinu. Teres is havas are bavad. The problem is that in this havas is also nimshach in yanim which are not just gvul, not just malikalam. We have in yanim and velt which are neveim mitzad einsaf. The dugma the mitzusim atzmuse. The poil there's an Indian the nivra has a hergish that he's independent. He just feels himself. Mitzusim atzmuse that's an Indian invest in the velt which is mitzad atzmus. That's the point number one. So the Alter Rebbe says that this happens the idea in order to explain the end for the Shiloh of Shinui, the musik of air explains that Shinui. So that's what the Alter Rebbe has to say. The Alter Rebbe has to say in order to say that the fact that the Mitzusim Atzmusi is Nimshach and Welt doesn't bring the musik of Shinui of them Alter Rebbe because it's through air. The air is Mahave Bekeach Ein Sof. Bekeach Mitzusim Atzmusi. That's going to be Mitaris Shiloh. And Al there's the Rebbe Shabbat wants to say here that in Welt you also, in order to be in Elam Hazi, you also have a certain expression of the musik of Shlos Kol HaTorah. In this Havas Elam Hazi, is not only in Yonim of Gvul, and the Alter Rebbe says not only Yonim of Bli Gvul Stamazeh, and not only the Indian of Mitzusim Atzmusi, you also have an Indian of Shlos Kol HaTorah, which is expressed in this Havas. So l'chora that's a shayla. So then we'll say, if efshe shayach be'er gamkin, b'china Shlos Kol HaTorah, maybe that enters that in. But he doesn't touch it doesn't understand what's the pshat. There's a musik of Shlos Kol HaTorah in the Savas, and there's a musik of Mitzusim Atzmusi. Means in order to be mahave, there's in Havas Elam Haz, it's not just we have a Havas mitzad memali, mitzad gvul. saying that let's say mitzad the Eibishter's midas chesed, let's say. In order for the chesed to express itself, there's a musik of mayim. So that's an Indian of that there's a dargan al-Quds which has a chiyuvi is dike shayches the welt. There's the dargan there's havos mitzad because the Eibishter is not mugbal. Because the Eibishter is not mugbal in anything. So Meir matasa, whatever he wants, he could do. But that's a tnu of bligvul. That means he's mushlo. You can't say that he relates to Welt. Because he's Ein Sof. And there this Havas is because Meir matasa, because you cannot limit him. He's beyond relate. He cannot be related to anything. So whatever he wants is going to be. But then there's the third in Havas. That you can't say that he doesn't relate to anything, and you can't say that he is positively connected. And that Indian expresses itself in the Havas. That it's not and it's not yes. Doesn't positively say by Malakalam we say that the world positively expresses Elokus. In Seviv we say Seviv is this Havas instead of Seviv is that the world does not express him and is beyond him. And this Havas is because Kachol Bertzenet. There's a third Indian that doesn't not express him and doesn't express him. It's not not.
Dibur.
Oh, the Dibur is already saying Dibur is Malay Pashtus. In Yoni Lahavis, in Yoni Schiyuv, in Yoni Kiruv. Then there's this Havas Mitzad Sevi, which in Yoni is to bring out that he's Muvdal. Then there is this Havas, we still have to see the attached stations. We'll have to. That there's the Hergish and Nivra that is. Let me examine the state. What does it say here? Once we say that in Gilui, you also have the Musik of Shalos Kol HaTeirim. L'chein is Havas and Avraham Ayin Liyesh Wadi Ha'er. I l'chore this in this Havas gets Chares Ha'inyin from Amitus Ein Sof Shalos Kol HaTeirim, because in the Eir you find under Keach Ein Sof. Through Eir is Nimshach the Keach Ein Sof. We're saying the Cheshbon. Behind. Was for B'chinas the Seva Kalam. Where Makamacher at Tam Shief Shalis is Havas Yesh from this Malakalam, and why can't it be this Havas Yesh? Means, and that's the what we said at the beginning. In the beginning, he says the whole Havas is Neveh B'chinas Adibur, and thus Zakman Gleich that this Havas is from Dafka from Ein Sof. Why can't it be said in this Havas? Means about the Eibishter doesn't have it. The Shail is which Inin Elokus is needed to have a Welt Kabiyach. Was for Inin sagt Chares in Welt. So steht in Chassidus that the Chorem bepashtat varm. What Indian is needed kabiyachol to have a Welt? It's a Havas Yeshmayim. So Indian prati of a Havas Yeshmayim. Avada only something which is not mugbal can have a Yeshmayim. But to create a new thing, it's a certain musik prati of being mahava Yeshmayim. A davar mugbal doesn't contain this power to be mahava Yeshmayim. But being mahava Yeshmayim is a certain phenomenon, a certain Indian, and you need that's called gvul in this maimer. The fact that the Eibishter could create Yesh Ma'ayin, that's not Shalos Kol HaTeirim, and it's not Mufshit from Ali. That's Inin Prati. That in Vaz Bashtet or Blikvul from Elokus, that he has Yecheles to create something from nothing. So that's called Gvul. That's Blikvul in our. I'm saying that's only something which has no Agbolis can Mahavas and Yesh Ma'ayin. But it's Blikvul the way it expresses itself in a certain Inyan. In the Inyan of it being Mahava Yesh Ma'ayin. That's called Malakalam. Malakalam doesn't mean Stam as a Gvul. It's the Ein Sof expressing itself in a certain Inyan. That's Gvul. So why can't there be a Havas Yesh B'chinas Malakalam? If it's Malakalam, no B'chinas Gvul. Mugder begeder Akbal Ruchni is. Wie Yef Shalis Mitzvah Havas Agashmis. Feel become Riva is Ishtash Yakel B'chinas Ruchni. Says even though the Malakalam has the Psharis Lahavis, but was for Azach can beschaffen only, but he's Mugder begeder Ruchnis. But in order to create, feel come you Yakel B'chinas Ruchni. Kim Dav B'chinas Eresev is Havas Yesh. She'eini Mugder begeder Akbal Ruchni is Davke. Doesn't understand what he's saying. He's saying the Malakalam Sadarga Malakalam in order to have a Yesh. Nafhaben der Keach from something which has no form of Mitzias at all. Why? Because anything which has a certain form of Mitzias, is Tachtas Afshad. If anything which has a certain Inyan, a certain form of Mitzias, a gewisser Inyan, so Mitzadat can be Mahava sein. Why? Can be Mahava Yesh. Can be Mahava. A davar Chodesh, not a Yesh. A Yesh means that the Mishava is not margish the Mihava at all. So davar b'fnei atzmei. In order, mitzad ha'malakalam, it can be mahava davar chodesh, but this havos will have to have a certain shaykhis to the mahava. What will be the shaykhis? That the mishava expresses the keich mahava. You're going to have a shaykhis. You see, a pashta word. That's a pashta word. I mentioned this before, that in order for one Indian to be pale another Indian, there has to be, you see, you want Shimshon HaGibur's kayach, anybody's kayach, to affect the stone, so the stone has to be magish the kayach. The fact that in his yad there's a kayach, Kevin, is not going to affect the chefza. It has to be that the stones. So you want to be Mahava Yishmael, become Mahava Zayin Yishmael. But in order to this Havas to take place, so the Kayach HaMahava has to be nirgash in the Dover HaMesaveh. How could the Kayach HaMahava be nirgash in the Dover HaMesaveh? Because the Dover HaMesaveh expresses somehow the Kayach HaMahava. You have to find a link, a connection between the Dover HaMesaveh and the Kayach HaMahava. If the Dover HaMesaveh is a Dover Gashmi, and the Kayach HaMahava is a Dover Ruchni. Ruchni and Gashmis have no relation. So in the world of the Mahav, in the world of Mishava, the Mahava doesn't exist. If in the world of the Mishava, the Mahava doesn't exist, how could it be? You say, you have a big Gibber, he's able to pick up the biggest masak of it. But his Kayach is in his Yad. And you want the stone to be picked up. How could the stone picked up by something which doesn't exist in this world? Doesn't exist. So Mal Kalam can be Mahava Dabar Chodesh, but if the Mishava is not in the same world as the Mihava, so the Malakal doesn't exist. He cannot be effective dort wo and stuff. So any dark of the fact that the fact that this Havas is a yesh, that means that this Havas, there's no relation between the Mishava and the Mihava. That's because the Mokir Mahava is Ein Sof, has no Akbalis. But if the Mokir Mahava had any taich, had any form of being, then it couldn't be a yesh. There can be something which has no relation to that being. If he has no relation, so then the Mahava doesn't exist like the Misava. So then how does the Mahava affect the Misava? You understand what I'm saying? He's saying in the fact that there's a yesh, that's does bring to raise that there's an expression that in order to be Mahava, you need a keich of Ein Sof. So this gives us a little beer why you can't stand for the Shaila of Leisha Nisi, because the whole in which the Ma'atim Chaya is Kulam is only a Lakus Shabab Gvul. And so Mele is Pchinas Diba Order Bavad. Because in order to if the whole Chayas in Savas Eilam would have been only Pchinas Gvul, Volt Geven not a Nivra which has a link to the Makir. There would be only that element of Mayim that Mayim expresses Chesed Velakus. But Mayim as a Yesh can be Mitzat Malakalam. There could be a Davar Chodesh, but a Davar Chodesh, this Davar Chodesh has a relation to the market because it expresses the fact that the Bari could be Mahava. A Niver that in Yoni is to express the fact that the Makir could be Mechadesh, a Yesh Ma'ayin, Azan Niver can Zayin. But a Niver which in Yoni is not to express anything. He's a Yesh. He feels himself. He's Magish Mitziyusik. There's no relation between the Niver and the Makir. We're not speaking about the word Mitziyusik Matzmusi. Yesh really means there is not Mitziyusik Matzmusi yet. That's without. The Nivra has there's no yachas between the Makar and the Nivra. No yachas at all, that can't come from a Darga Mugbelis, a Darga which has a touch. And by Emek Yeser, no yachas at all can't come from Blik Vol either. That could come from Shilas Kolater. It's another word. There's the word that the Indian of Atzmus is Mizbat and the Bria Mitzat Mitzisim Atzmusi. There's another word. The word of his Havas Yesh, what he says here. Yesh is Dafka Bekeich Ein Sof HaSeviv. And the Mitzat Yesh is Dafka Mishilas Kolater. Because any darga which has Agdara, anything which comes from it is only because it's masim with the Agdara of that Inyan. See, Memala is a Taj. Chesed, that sense. In Yoni is to bring out the fact that the Eibishter has the Midas HaChesed. What's going to come from Chesed? Whatever's masim the Chesed, she's nimshach from Chesed. Whatever's not do with Chesed, is come to from Chesed. Al Dera, so the darga is
not a creation Yishmael.
Huh?
When you just said that, that's not Yishmael.
That's not Yesh. A Yesh means which does not relate to its Makir. That can come from Midas HaChesed. It has to relate in the form of Chesed. It's that Chesed Atzilis. If it doesn't relate to Chesed, so then how could Chesed be a Makir or something which doesn't relate to Chesed? Chesed has its Inyan, what it's here to express. And from Chesed is Neveah in Yonim, which express that Inyan. Now, the emes is, the Ishabos is, the Abish created a world, a Gashmizik world. What does it mean, Gashmi? Besides the word Mitzvah Masus is Nachapart, that the Niver doesn't feel that he comes from anywhere. You have a sense of self. You're here. So the Rav he's saying, besides the word, Gashmi means that it's not an expression of something. Gashmi is just matter. Doesn't have a teichen. It doesn't express anything. That's the word gashmi. It's just a thing. It exists. Not that it doesn't express something. Besides the fact that a Yeder Gashmi is not margish that he has a mocker. He feels himself independent. But I'm saying besides for that element. You're saying, what's the difference between a Davar Gashmi and a Davar Ruchni? Davar Ruchni expresses a certain inyan, has a certain message, has a certain teichen. Gashmi just exists. There's no taich. In other words, the Gashmi you cannot relate it. That it's here to express something of the mocker. It just exists. A table, the physical aspect of the table. There's a piece of matter. It doesn't express anything. So in order to have this musik of just a piece of matter, you need shlilas kol hatayr. Because if the makar has any tayar, so then the nivra could only be mishave if it's masim to that tayar. If his tayar is gvul, let's say if his tayar is chesed, so only in yonim and shinyanim to express chesed, they're going to come from chesed. Even Yonah is bligvul, so a nivra which expresses bligvul is going to come from bligvul. But the Gashmi doesn't express anything. The Gavra doesn't talk. Gashmi just is. Doesn't talk. Besides the fact that it's Yusim Atzmusi, it's Shinochavar, that it's independent. But let's see what type of independent. A Gashmi doesn't talk. It's just a thing. It doesn't say yes. Besides Yusim is that it says only me. We're not going to Yusim it says only me. It doesn't say that. But what is Gashmi? It's just matter. It's faran. It's just a glump of clay. That Indian, so it doesn't. If the Makar has a gather, so then mitzad vas shtamtis havos funem, because his gather is a siba for his havos. So, or if his gather is gvul, whatever the gvul is going to be, this havos is going to have to be a reflection of his gvul. If the Makar is bligvul, so this havos is neveim said tchona of bligvul. So this havos has to relate to the tchona of bligvul. So the havos is going to have some type of characteristic that brings out bligvul. But Gashmi is a zach which has no characteristic at all. That means that the Makar has no characteristic. The mele, there's no kashas. There's no question why. There's no musik of why. He's here. Doesn't have to express anything. There's nothing to express. Not yes and not. If the makar is yes or the makar is not, the nivra is going to have to be or yes or not. But it's going to have some form of expressing the makar somehow. Gashmi, the real taich of Gashmi is it doesn't have any. There's no expression there. It's just matter. What are you saying, Gvul? That the Elokus is Babi Gvul. That's expressed in Vel. That's expressed in Gashmis. That's expressed in the Teichen of Gashmis. In the Mayim, the fact that Mayim goes Lamata, that expresses the Midas HaChesed. But it doesn't. It's not. If you're speaking about expression, you're not speaking about Gashmis. You're speaking about an Indian already. You're not speaking about Gashmis. Gashmis is just say simple raw that it exists, nothing else. Expression is the rest in Yanim. It's Gashmi is not an Indian. It's just a thing.
Because it's physical.
The physical. That's talking about the physical. The Rambam brings up that you have a mishal. You can use any Torah in Holocaust. Chachma v'chesed, you can't use, or you can use different things to be a mashal for Holocaust. But mishush, touching, you can't say when you get mishush doesn't have mishush the physical aspect of the Indian, not the concept. It's a concept of the table. The table represents a certain idea. Then there is that it's a physical thing. There's no idea there. It's not a musik. It's not a gedanke. It's not an idea. It represents a concept. It just is. What's the teichem? There is no teichem. It just exists. Mishush itself. So you can. So that azam insert in the sabos is dafka from shlos kol Torah. So does that from so you have the shlos kol Torah the way it is kaviyachol and atzmos, and you have the way mitzat shlos kol Torah is gevar nagashim. That's the chodesh of shinu. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says that in the Indian of you have shlos kol Torah. That doesn't say it. This is the Maimer says. Based on what the Alter Rebbe says, you have mitzat atzmos in So after shaykh lemer that also in you have shlos kol Torah, and that's how this house is b'kei chayir. This is what he says here. He wants to explain that you versteht the Hemshech advarim the Maimer. Just want to read the Cheshvan advarim. He says, since once we say that shaykh b'er gamkin, chines ein sof shlos kol Torah, in is echt for shlos kol Torah. So lechein is havas Rebbe Aliyesh or there b'kei ein sof. What do you need? Havas Aliyesh. Was have shlos kol Torah? Blikvul, davar prati. Why can't they have a musik prati? And Yani is that he's not mukbal in the Indian of a yesh mi yesh, and he can be mahava yesh mai. He says, "Hainum chines the sevikolam." Which here means in general. Why can't you have a musik of a savas hayesh from a dark of gvul? And in this misgares, it means a dark of gvul. Why? Why you need ein sof shlas kol haTorah? So he means mal kalaman here. He means shlas mal kalaman as any musik. That's what he means mal kalaman. So why can't he? Why? What's in the shaykhs with something that shaykhs? Shmal kalaman chinas gvul. Mugd begeder akbal ruchnis. We have to listen to this havas gashmis. It means he's mugdal and ruchnis. It's a seiner Indian. But gashmis nicht kann nicht werden von ihm. Viele bekamen Rivitz, es schaut kol ruchnis ruchnis. Kein darf mir raseu es havas yesh. In mugd begeder akbal ruchnis darf. Ruchnis gashmis schaffen davon. In keiner die beginnt eins aufgenommen. So what is he saying here? He means shlas kol haTorah, not stam the musik event stuff. You see what he's saying? So he means ruchnis, he means akbal kalam is gvul, he means it's a specific Indian. Von a specific Indian mit einer Sache, was ist Masse mit jenem Indian. Oh, but he says, so Hachodesh is a shayla, but Eba says, that's nicht wie der Ramak. The Ramak holds that the Indian of Shiur Shlas Kol HaTorah and Mitzvah Masmutz is daf genannt. He's bringing Chassidus right away. This whole Indian that in Yonim of Atzmos are reflected in Welt, das wird Alter Rebbe sagt. Das ist nicht von Kabbalah Merishem. The fact that this Havos is Bekeich Ein Sof and Tzism Atzmus, that's all the Alter Rebbe is wert. The Ramak that's nicht gesagt. And according to that, the fact that there's none of Atzmus which are reflected in Vel is because the air is Megala that you see none of Atzmus. You see the proper idea. Aber calls the anyway, so that's me dos for the air sai hatten sich
mean so much ruchnis begashmis shabbat lefanav.
Means that there's no musig of mitzvahs. An Indian which has an Indian, any dargan olukus which has a certain tayar, there has to be a schagas in ruchnis and gashmis somehow. If in Yoni is, I'm saying this is already what I'm saying. This the Rebbe says in a Maimer, not as a taich what it says here, but that's the das kann sein a taich v'shteido. There's many when you say ruchnis gashmis lefanov, there's different dargas. The way he's explaining it here in a very high darga, but the Rebbe brings somewhere from Lashon of the Tzemach Tzedek, from Lashon Alter Rebbe, that in the darga of Gvul, the way in a darga of where lukus is in Kalim and Gvul, so their ruchnis is higher than gashmis. Because Gashmis is mitzad darga of Gvul, the Velukus is in Seder Shtalshalus, so in Seder Shtalshalus, in Shiur, more mufshit and more edel is more of a Keli Talukus. The more Mugushim, the more Mrichik from Ruchnis is less Keli Talukus. And Le'idach mitzad Bli Gvul, mitzad the gather of Shlilas HaGvul, a gather of Shlilas HaGvul. So Gashmis is closer to that than Ruchnis. Because Ruchnis won't express the Heder Agdar of the Makim. The fact is the davar gashmi. The fact is the far thing that's going to bring out the blik voldamak. But this havas hayesh is not the gashmi in Yoni is not to express the blik voldamak. It just is, and that's because ruchnis the gashmi shavim lefan. He's not any Indian. So the gabi him not expressing the halbazach. There's no Indian. He's not mugder in a specific Indian. So it's not shaykh to say that there's something which relates to something which doesn't relate to him. If the Indian has a certain taich, even if his taich is ein sof blikvol mufshit, there's going to be a form of reality that expresses it. And fakir, there the form of reality is going to be the more gashmis, the more expression of Ein Sof is going to be. Ruchnis v'gashmis shavim lefanov is that from Shlas Kol HaTorah. The true idea of Ruchnis v'gashmis shavim lefanov is the Shlas Kol HaTorah. Yes, the word matzrich in biur k'tzas. We'll say nur the thing that even if you don't, I'm saying it's not like I'm saying as if ich verstehe was du sagst. I'm saying you should also feel comfortable to learn things you don't understand. That's the thing. Comfortable. I'm saying this is good. Aber calls anyway mitzad atzmei schon. Not the mitzad atzmei. Is mitzad atzmei. A mitzad atzmei mein amar. Nicht wegen dem Netza. Kim li yesim ein mekel. Vezeu shaysav ze bekeich ein sof dafke. Here he says, contradicted because Hachodesh nabel l'shein ha'toir, u'chdesh yiyah yesh hazan nivra bekeich ein sof. Ubal gvul u'mid and sabah shein sof. In the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, it doesn't say mufurish that in this Havos is also an expression of Shlas Kol HaTorah. The Rebbe Shav speaks here in sof Shlas Kol HaTorah. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya read Tzisim Atzmusah. But once the Rebbe Shap's built, that once Al Rebbe says, you have the nivra. Efsheh Shaykh Lemer also in Eir, and the Fiza, we can understand that in this Havos Hayesh, you have an Indian of Shlas Kol HaTeirim. So now we can understand Al Rebbe's Lashon. Al Rebbe says when Ukdeish Yia Yesh Hazeh Nivra B'Keich Ein Sof. What's like Al Rebbe too? But should argue that it's Havos Yesh B'Keich Atzmos. What's Dr. Nachman B'Keich Ein Sof? So he said that Al Rebbe means Ukdeish Yia Nivra B'Keich Ein Sof. It means Ein Sof Shlas Kol HaTeirim. And that also is through the air, because Al Rebbe Retach the Havos B'Keich is at the air. Azeh Malein Ukdeish Yia Nivra B'Keich Ein Sof. B'Keich Ein Sof. Meret B'Chlav. He's saying the B'Keich Ein Sof. Al Rebbe means that Indian. The take for Ein Sof. The Shlas Kol HaTeirim of Ein Sof. That's really good. The Rebbe Tavsh Chabez at the zweite Dirk, yeah, Keich Ein Sof. What's the Lashon Keich Ein Sof? No, I think the Rebbe teaches Keich Ein Sof. The Indian of Tzisim Atzmusi, no? No one remembers. There was huh? Tavsh Chabez. The Rebbe teaches the Keich Ein Sof of his language. Gedenk. Basel Gan. Was the Rebbe say there was Keich Ein Sof? The Rebbe says Keich Ein Sof is Helen. The Rebbe teaches there something. Yeah, of course. I think the Rebbe teaches Keich Ein Sof behesen to Mitzvusim Atzmusi. The Hergesh Mitzvusim Atzmusi. The Keich Ein Sof, Musik of Keich is Almos. As I dacht. But here the Rebbe Shvasin teaches Keich Ein Sof that it means the Indian of Shlos Kol HaTeirim.
The Indian of Mitzvusim is not connected to Shlos Kol HaTeirim.
It is. That's why he says Efsheh Shaykh Lemer. He says that it's Neveh, only something which is Mitzvusim Atzmusi. So he's a whole different type of being. It doesn't have the reason why a regular being, which is because you suit with a certain musig. So by definition, you have to have a certain touch, because your existence is verbunden with the ilah v'siba shekadol. The fact that you exist is because you fit in to a certain misgeres. Atzmos, he doesn't have to fit into. He created the musig of doesn't exist. It's not like there's a musig of being, and he suits the qualifications of being, of existing. He's mitzvah atzmus, he's built in mitzvahs. His being is not midem that he's conforms to the musig of being. He's unconformed being. There's no musig of being yet. It's a different type of mitzvahs. The mitzvahs that we know is there's a musig of being, a musig of existing, and there is already what's considered and what's the qualifications to be existent, and you exist. Exist means that you contain these qualities. Say, what does it mean that we exist? There's a musik of existing. You can touch him, you can feel him, you can see him. He's breathing, and this guy exists. He has all these things. He breathes, and you can see him. But the Eibishter, he doesn't exist. What exists means you can touch him, you can feel him, and the Eibishter you can feel and touch. His existence is because it stems from him himself, not from anything. So Meile doesn't. The fact that he exists, his being doesn't have to suit with anything. It's built in mitzvahs. So it doesn't have to have a touch. It's a different union. After that, that's also there. Yeah. Let's just see the next one. So what's neget to the Hemshech Advarim? So the Rebbe Shabbos brings in when he brings the two musagim and Ein Sof that he's going to deal with the Hemshech Hamayim, and he brings in that these. The Iker wants to explain is that these musagim only Atzmos has this in Yad Mitzad Atzmos. And then it brings in as that according to Al Rebbe, the air is also Ein Sof, and that's Miyashav Leishnis. And now he's going to go back to go through to the Prati Advarim. That's the ways. So v'zeu shara Marx aliman le'mashim in Saval Davram Suvinim Shechem Anizvar. Tim Chnes Hasa Sam Shub Chnes Ein Sof Amiti Kanal. That's versteht in the Ramak. What's with the Merkabah Merushem? And that's what he's going to get into. He's going to also there bring in the. Let's come up and we'll have to. We'll get to the Indian. That Rebbe doesn't mention Musik of Shlos Kol HaTeirim. The Rebbe Shvasin is saying here that not only is two Musagim of Ein Sof, one Ein Sof B'Ligvo and one Shlos Kol HaTeirim. That's a different word than Mitzvah Atzmusi, the Hergish of Mitzvah Atzmusi. So that Rebbe L'chor Retish begin the word. That early have Adam Zakte that so the fees according to what he says here in the Maimer that in this Havos is Eichel Shlos Kol HaTeirim and it's also interested in the air. That could be the Rebbe's the Pshat Rebbe's Lashon. Gdei Shia Yesh Hazeh Nivra B'Keich Ein Sof. That means that the Yesh is Nivra B'Keich Ein Sof. What does he mean B'Keich Ein Sof? What does Al Rebbe mean when he says that the Yesh is Nivra B'Keich Ein Sof? The Keich Mitzvah Atzmusi. Das sagt nicht das. Al Rebbe doesn't mean das schon gerät früher Mitzvah Atzmusi. Was sagt noch einmal? He already said before that the yesh is in the either b'sibish chadmila b'meila he margish is atzmi either. What's the nacham of the yesh is a nivra zeh b'keach einsof means him is a yesh hanivra the yesh hazeh which is nivra b'keach shlilas klater. Another inyan that's expressed in Veld.
He doesn't explain what that brings out in the nivra.
Doesn't touch anything. No, it doesn't. No, that's it's a dictacle. Yeah. Here it gives a touch. The fact that it doesn't gash shavim lefan. Yeah, but it's very betantzes. So I'm saying it's not. B'chos, man chapt was tutzach. Huh?
It's not an gash is not.
Gash is not. It's an expression. It's not gash.
Saying it's not an expression
of not. It's not an expression of anything. It's not the idea. That's an idea. Gash is not an idea. It's not a concept. It's just a thing.
That's not a concept. Also, there's no concept.
No, that's what he's trying to say. Shlilas Kater means there's no concept. So you say, from my to Gavarn, the Eibusher, what do you want to express? That he's mufshit? We don't express it. Who said we're looking to express anything? It's just this. We can't ask any kashis. There's no ideas. He's saying, why? From Vana to Gavarn Gashmis. What is it? It doesn't represent anything. Does it represent not? Is it representing that you cannot? It's not representing that you cannot express him either. He's not representing anything. Stam is here. It means it's not that we're answering the question. We're not saying from Vana. Wie kommt es? The Eibusher does not have a Welt. Yes. What does he come to express from the Makkah? He's not expressing anything. He's not even here to express that he's not expressing anything. He just is. That's only something which has no gather, which has no inyan. There's no inyan. What's the yesh? There's no in the yesh. Is he here to express the idea of no inyan? He's not here to express that either. He just is. You can't ask any questions. It's not a question of, we're not explaining now an inyan. There is no questions there. See what the Rebbe was saying, that the Rebbe said all the Mikobalim were looking for reasons why they created the world. The Rebbe said about Taivas King Kasha. What was the Rebbe saying? The Rebbe didn't say a biur. It's like a very funny they created a world. He created a yesh. It doesn't express them at all. It's a Goran Shishta. But the Gabi Atz is coming to Shvegin Kikashas. It's not that we give an answer. Who said that things have to make sense? And who said they have to explain things? The whole idea of kasha doesn't exist with it. Kasha is that something has to make sense, and I don't see that it doesn't clap. But that's if something is an inyan. So what type of inyan is here? This inyan, that inyan. There is no inyan. There's him what he wants, and that's it. There's no inyan here. There's not. So that very tavalt. Stamaz it.
It's not his answer. You can ask.
Yeah, that's I'm saying this. I'm saying in the Gabi Sabbath what he's saying. That's I'm saying that's nicht meine attach. I think Rabbi attached like this, but that's the minyan of Shteitim Chassidus. I'm saying it's not. That's the Chorah Pshat. I'm saying this lashon that is havas that Yeruch is a gash shavim lefanav. Sometimes you use the same lashon to bring out the musig of blikvo. Here he wants to use it to explain why in the havas is mitzat shlilas kolater, not just the musig of blikvo. So here he means gashmis. If it would be a musig of blikvo, so the nivra is here to express the fact that he's beyond expression. It means that the makar has a certain definition. He's beyond expression, and the nivra is here to represent it. Here we're saying gashmis. He's not here to represent anything. It's not garnished. Schweigt. And not schweigt in order to bring out that Medav Garnish is Zog. There's no expression, no concept. He just is. Just a pashita glump of clay on a table. So what is it? It's nothing. Because what's the makar? You can't say anything about the makar either. So that's only Mr. Shilas Kalaterim you can have a Sabbath of a Yesh, which was Zog Garnish. Yeah, Medav Trafing again. I'm just. Medav Trafing again. Yeah, I'm saying. We'll go through it. I'm saying it's nicht we're not like trying to move away secrets. I'm saying verstehen the general lineage. Good, okay.